Stop. Before you scroll past this video, I need you to hear something that most men never get told. You've been misreading her this entire time. Not because you're not smart, not because you're not observant, but because nobody ever taught you how women actually signal attraction. And that one blind spot has cost you more than you realize. Stay with me for the next few minutes because what I'm about to share may completely change the way you interpret your interactions with women. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand 8 powerful signs that a woman may be deeply attracted to you, even when she never says it out loud. But more importantly, you're going to discover why some of the most attractive men are often the last ones to realize the effect they have on others. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something honestly. Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? Have you ever replayed a conversation over and over in your mind, wondering if she was interested, or if you simply imagined it? Have you ever looked around at other men and quietly thought, maybe I just don't have what they're looking for? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. In fact, many of the men who struggle the most with self-doubt are often the very men women find intriguing, trustworthy, and attractive. And before we continue, take a moment to connect with this conversation. If you've ever questioned your own value, if you've ever wondered whether you're missing signals that were right in front of you, let me know in the comments. I read them carefully, and chances are another man watching this video has experienced the exact same thing. Also, if you're ready to understand female psychology on a deeper level and become more confident in your interactions, make sure you like this video and subscribe. The conversations we have here aren't about tricks or manipulation. They're about awareness, emotional intelligence, and seeing yourself clearly. I'm Maggie, host of Queen of Psychology YouTube channel. Now here's something that most men were never taught growing up. Men and women often experience attraction very differently. For many men, attraction feels direct. You notice someone attractive and immediately feel motivated to move closer, start a conversation, or pursue an opportunity. It's straightforward. It's visible. For women, attraction often begins differently. It starts with awareness. Before she decides whether she wants to move closer, she notices. She observes. She pays attention to how you carry yourself, how you interact with others, and how you make her feel emotionally. Attraction isn't always announced. In many cases, it's communicated through subtle signals that can easily be missed if you're only looking for obvious signs. This is where so many men get confused. They assume that if a woman likes them, she'll make it obvious. They'll expect clear invitations, direct compliments, or unmistakable interest. But female attraction rarely works that way. Instead, it tends to reveal itself through patterns of behavior, small moments that become meaningful when viewed together. And the first sign is one of the most powerful: lingering eye contact. Think about the last time you were in a coffee shop, a bookstore, a social event, or even standing in line somewhere. You looked up and caught someone's eyes for a brief moment. Most strangers immediately look away. That's normal. But when attraction is involved, something different happens. She holds your gaze for just a second longer than expected. Not long enough to be obvious, not long enough to make you completely certain, but long enough to create a feeling. Psychologically, eye contact is one of the strongest forms of nonverbal communication. Research consistently shows that sustained eye contact increases feelings of connection, trust, and emotional engagement. Our brains become more attentive when someone looks at us with intention. What many men fail to notice is what often happens next. She looks away. Then, a few moments later, she looks back. That second glance matters. The first look may have been curiosity. The second look is often confirmation. It's her quietly checking whether you noticed her noticing you. A client I once worked with told me about a woman he regularly saw at a local cafe. For months, he noticed these brief moments of eye contact but dismissed them. He assumed they meant nothing. One day, after another shared glance, he simply smiled. Not a dramatic smile, not an attempt to impress her, just a warm, genuine smile. She smiled back. A week later, they started talking. Months later, they were dating. The point isn't that every glance means attraction. The point is that many men automatically dismiss signs before they even consider them. And that's exactly why awareness matters. Now let's move to the second sign, and this one is fascinating because it often happens before a single word is exchanged. Proximity. When people feel drawn to someone, they naturally position themselves closer to them. You may notice a woman consistently choosing a seat nearby when there are plenty of alternatives available. She joins conversations you're already part of. She finds reasons to remain within your social orbit. Most men assume these situations are random. Sometimes they are, but not always. Psychologists have long studied something called the mere exposure effect. The more frequently we encounter someone in a positive context, the more familiar and comfortable they become. Attraction often grows through repeated exposure. Women understand this intuitively. Rather than forcing interaction, many simply create opportunities for interaction. I remember speaking with a gentleman in his 60s who was convinced women no longer noticed him. Yet during our conversations, he mentioned that the same woman regularly sat beside him at community events. Probably coincidence, he told me. The 5th time? Still coincidence. The 7th time? Not likely. The moment he stopped assuming rejection and started paying attention, he realized there were signals he'd been overlooking for months. And that leads us to something even more important than eye contact or proximity: presence. Because sign number 3 has very little to do with appearance and everything to do with energy. Have you ever noticed that when you speak, people naturally listen? Not because you're loud, not because you're demanding attention, but because your words seem to carry weight. That kind of presence is one of the most attractive qualities a man can develop, and in the next section, I'm going to explain exactly why women respond so strongly to it, and why many men completely underestimate its power. Presence is one of those qualities that people feel long before they can explain it. We've all met someone who walks into a room and immediately commands attention without trying. They aren't the loudest person. They aren't constantly seeking approval. Yet people listen when they speak. Conversations naturally shift toward them. Others seem genuinely interested in what they have to say. What you're witnessing in those moments is not dominance, it's grounded confidence. Women are often highly sensitive to emotional and social cues. They notice who remains calm under pressure. They notice who listens instead of waiting for their turn to speak. They notice who seems comfortable in their own skin. This is why many men become more attractive with age. Youth often relies on visibility. Maturity relies on presence. A man in his 20s may attract attention through energy and appearance. A man in his 50s or 60s often attracts attention through steadiness, emotional intelligence, and self-possession. One simple exercise you can start practicing today is slowing down your communication. Most people rush. They rush their words. They rush their reactions. They rush to fill every moment of silence. Instead, try pausing before you respond. Take a moment to think. Let your words land. You'll be amazed at how much more attention people give you when you stop competing for it. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked signs of attraction: mirroring. This signal happens almost entirely beneath conscious awareness. Imagine you're sitting across from someone. You lean back in your chair, and a few moments later, she leans back too. You cross one leg, and later she adjusts her posture similarly. You slow your speaking pace, and somehow the rhythm of the conversation begins matching yours. Most people never notice this, but psychologists have studied mirroring for decades. When we feel connected to someone, our brains naturally begin synchronizing with theirs. This process helps create rapport, trust, and emotional comfort. In many ways, attraction begins with emotional safety. That's a phrase many men misunderstand. Safety doesn't mean being boring. It doesn't mean lacking confidence. It means creating an environment where another person feels comfortable being themselves. Think about the people you enjoy spending time with. They're usually not the people who make you feel judged. They're the people who make you feel relaxed. The same principle applies to attraction. When a woman subconsciously mirrors your posture, your energy, or your communication style, her nervous system is often signaling comfort and connection. And comfort is frequently the foundation upon which attraction grows. But now we're about to move into something even deeper. Because sign number 5 isn't about body language at all. It's about the type of compliment she gives you. Most men light up when they hear a compliment about their appearance, and that's understandable. But some compliments carry far more meaning than others. If a woman says, "You look nice today," that's positive. But if she says, "I feel comfortable talking to you," or "There's something calming about your energy," she's revealing something much more significant. She's describing how she experiences you emotionally, and that matters. Research consistently shows that emotional connection, authenticity, and trust are among the strongest predictors of long-term attraction. In other words, while appearance may open a door, emotional experience often determines whether someone wants to stay. I once spoke with a widower who had spent years believing he was completely average. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't wealthy, he wasn't trying to impress anyone. Yet women consistently described him in similar ways. You make people feel heard. You're easy to talk to. I feel comfortable around you. For years, he dismissed these comments. He assumed they were just being polite. What he didn't realize was that those statements represented some of the strongest compliments a woman can offer. Women often remember how a man makes them feel long after they've forgotten what he was wearing or what specific story he told. So the next time someone compliments your energy, your presence, your kindness, or your steadiness, don't brush it aside. Accept it. Allow yourself to believe it, because confidence grows when you stop arguing with positive evidence. Now here's where things become especially interesting. Sign number 6 involves something many men notice but rarely interpret correctly: repeated glances. Human beings constantly scan their environment. Our brains are wired to notice things that stand out. Not only physical attractiveness, but confidence, composure, charisma, and social presence. When someone catches your attention, you tend to look more than once. Women do the same thing. You may notice someone glancing in your direction repeatedly throughout an event. You might make eye contact from across a room several different times. You may catch someone looking at you, only for them to quickly look away when noticed. None of these signals guarantee attraction, but patterns matter. One glance means very little. 5 or 6 glances over the course of an evening tell a different story. The problem is that many men never notice these moments because they're distracted. They're staring at their phones, they're stuck in their heads, they're busy assuming nobody is paying attention. Here's a practical challenge. The next time you enter a social environment, spend the first few minutes observing instead of evaluating yourself. Notice the room. Notice the people. Notice who notices you. You may discover that you're receiving far more attention than you've been allowing yourself to see. And now we're moving into a sign that surprises almost everyone, because it has nothing directly to do with women. Yet, it can dramatically influence attraction. Pay attention to how other men respond to you. This is something women observe constantly. Whether consciously or unconsciously, people pay attention to social dynamics. When other men respect you, listen to you, seek your opinion, or speak positively about you, those signals create social proof. Social proof is powerful because it helps people determine value quickly. If others respect you, there must be a reason. If others enjoy your company, there must be something worth noticing. On the other hand, competition can reveal something interesting too. Sometimes men become unusually competitive around individuals they perceive as high value. They interrupt more, they try harder to impress, they subtly compete for attention. What's important is understanding that truly confident men rarely chase status. They don't need to. They carry themselves with quiet certainty, and that certainty becomes visible to everyone around them, including women. But there's still one final sign left, and it's the sign that ties everything together, because it explains why some men seem naturally attractive without ever trying, and why others unknowingly push attraction away. Let's talk about the energy of abundance versus the energy of scarcity.